Lena Miles, a lone black woman with a steady gaze and intricate cornrows, found herself cornered on a quiet roadside in Northwood, Illinois. Officer Keith Miller, smug and self-assured, had pulled her over for a busted taillight. He saw an easy stop, a chance to assert his authority, especially over what he perceived as a black woman with an attitude and a laughably fake ID. He was about to learn a lesson that would dismantle his career and expose a rot within his own precinct. The tinted window of her graphite gray sedan slid down just enough to annoy Miller. Inside, Lena, dressed in a tailored blazer, met his gaze with unnerving calm. No music, no excuses, just a silence that grated on him. License and registration, he clipped, foregoing courtesy. She produced a leather wallet, her movements fluid and economical. Miller snatched it, demanding her name. Lena Miles, he grunted, finally flipping open the wallet. His smirk vanished, replaced by a surge of irritation. A federal seal, strange designations. He dismissed it all as a cheap online fake. "This some kind of joke," he muttered. "It's a legitimate government credential, officer." Her voice was unervingly level. "What agency? CIA? FBI? People with real badges aren't afraid to say who they are." "I am not at liberty to disclose that information," she stated, her tone flat. "So it's a fake," Miller pressed, leaning in, savoring the moment. Presenting a fraudulent ID to a police officer is a felony, a serious one. It is not fraudulent. Her calm was a stone in his shoe, an infuriating defiance. Miller walked back to his cruiser, a plan solidifying. He'd teach her respect. "Dispatch! I need a secondary unit," he radioed. "Got a female here in a gray sedan, non-compliant, presenting a bogus federal ID. Need backup." Less than 5 minutes later, 2 rookies arrived, barely out of high school. Miller's confidence swelled. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step out of the car." Agent Miles exhaled softly, and the car door opened. No argument, no resistance. As she stood, a rookie moved in, his voice cracking slightly. "For my safety, I'm going to have to place you in restraints until we can verify your identity." "Officer," she said, her voice dropping a notch, "I strongly advise you to reconsider. You can explain all that down at the station." Phones emerged on the sidewalk as bystanders began to film the spectacle. Miller didn't care. Lena Miles simply turned, presenting her wrists. Her blazer shifted, revealing a tiny, flesh-colored earpiece. Miller dismissed it as part of her act. She was too calm, a calm that bothered him more than screaming ever could. He missed the subtle tilt of her smartwatch, the single whispered word she spoke into it just before the cuffs clicked shut. The cold metal bit into her skin. The 3 officers formed a loose triangle around her. The rookies were jumpy, but Miller stood motionless, watching her like a hawk. "Where you headed?" he asked, accusatory. "Home." "And where's home?" She met his gaze. "I think you already know I can't answer that." He stepped closer, invading her space. "Listen, lady, this mysterious act isn't helping you. What I see is a woman with no valid ID, refusing to cooperate. It's not a good look." "You have everything you need," she replied. "You just refuse to recognize it." The condescension infuriated him. "Hey, you're really cuffing her over a taillight," a bystander shouted. Miller ignored them. He tapped his radio. "Dispatch! What's the word on that ID?" "Still searching, Keith. Nothing in the system." He turned to the rookie. "Pat her down." As the young cop stepped forward, Lena spoke again, her voice cutting through the tension. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The rookie froze. "Are you threatening me?" "No," she said. "It's a professional courtesy." Then came the shriek of tires. 2 black SUVs, appearing from nowhere, screeched to a halt a half-block away. Doors flew open, and 4 men in dark suits emerged, moving with chilling efficiency. The tallest strode directly toward Miller, flashing a badge. "Federal Protective Service." The man announced, his voice like cold steel. "That woman is an asset under our protection. Release her now." Miller felt a flash of rage. "I don't know who you people are, but she is detained until I confirm her identity." The agent got nose to nose with him. "Officer, You are seconds away from interfering in a matter of national security. Let her go before you make a career-ending mistake. Another agent whispered something to the rookie, holding the cuffs. The kid's face went white. His shoulders slumped as if the words themselves had physical weight. He looked at Miller, his eyes wide with a terror Miller didn't yet understand. It wasn't a prank. This was real. The lead agent turned to Lena. "Agent Miles, are you secure?" She gave a single, sharp nod. The agent pulled a thick, rugged device from his coat, held it to the ID Miller still clutched, and a sharp green light flashed across the screen. A sharp beep cut the air. "Credentials confirmed," the lead agent stated. Miller's mind went blank. What agency are you?" he stammered. The agent gave him a look of pure dismissal. "She works for people who don't have business cards. Officers, stand down." Lena Miles's wrists were still cuffed, but her expression was unchanged, the calm of a professional who had drilled for this exact disaster. At a quiet nod from the lead agent, the rookie fumbled with the key and unlocked the restraints, his hands trembling. Lena Miles simply flexed her fingers, rolling her wrists. Miller staggered back. "You can't just override my stop," he blurted, his words weak. "Officer Miller," the lead agent's voice dropped, low and menacing. "Your stop nearly compromised a year-long deep cover operation. You put a national security asset at risk over a broken taillight." At that moment, Miller's radio crackled. Keith, wait. Getting a priority ping from a secure channel. Stand by." Too late. The world had moved on. Agent Miles walked past the local cops as if they were statues and began a low, clipped debrief with her team leader. She was already back at work. "Anyone touch the vehicle?" the agent asked. "Just me," Miller mumbled. "Don't go near it again." Another agent pulled a hardened case from a hidden compartment in the trunk. Its contents were a complex array of sealed electronics. "What is that?" Miller demanded. "Classified." Miles replied, not even gracing him with a look. "Everything's classified with you people," he snapped. She finally paused and turned to face him. "Yes, because sometimes the people you're supposed to trust are the ones setting you up." Before he could respond, her entire demeanor shifted. Her eyes swept the crowd and locked onto a man in the back, wearing a baseball cap. He wasn't filming. He was waiting. "Target spotted," she whispered into her watch. The agent spun. The man bolted, diving into a dark alley. An agent gave chase. "Who the hell was that?" Miller yelled. "The reason I was on the street tonight," Miles replied. A muffled pop echoed from the alley. Seconds later, the agent returned with a man in cuffs. "It's a tracker, not a mic," he confirmed. Lena Miles exhaled sharply. The stop wasn't random. Her gaze drifted to the stunned rookie, then down to the police radio on his belt. The implication was clear and poisonous. The precinct had a traitor. An hour later, Agent Miles walked into the Northwood precinct on Division Street, moving with an authority that made the building feel like her territory. Miller found her in the main hallway. She had just exited the server room, having used her own key card to gain access. "You can't just walk in here and take over," he said, his voice tight with humiliation. "I don't have time for a lesson in jurisdiction, officer. I deserve to know what's happening." Agent Miles stopped and looked at him, her gaze like a physical blow. "You deserve nothing. You nearly destroyed a federal operation tonight, for one reason." She took a step closer. "When I handed you my credentials, you didn't see a federal officer. You saw a black woman you thought you could bully. Your bias almost got people killed. I'm not here to educate you. I'm here to find the leak you enabled." Before Agent Miles could move, another officer entered the hallway. It was Greg Shaw, stocky with a perfectly shaved head and a uniform far too crisp for a graveyard shift. His eyes locked on Miles and went ice cold. Well, Shaw sneered. "The ghost of Langley decides to walk among us." Miller looked between them, confused. "You two know each other?" "He was attached to my unit overseas," Miles said, her voice flat, "right before he vanished mid-operation, along with a secure phone full of encrypted contacts." "Is that your story?" Shaw stepped closer, radiating menace. "My version has you leaving 3 bodies in a safe house." So, you're going to play hero in my precinct now. I'm not here to play, Miles said. She pulled a small digital recorder from her pocket and pressed play. Shaw's own voice filled the hallway, clipped and distorted. She'll pass the Lincoln Avenue checkpoint by 2100. It's her standard route. You'll have a clean shot. Miller's face went slack with shock. I intercepted your signal this morning, Greg. Miles said, her voice like steel. You've been leaking intel for months. You fed them my location tonight, hoping they'd finish the job you failed to do in Kabul. Shaw didn't waste time with denials. He lunged, but Miller, finally seeing the truth, moved faster. He tackled Shaw, and the two men crashed against the wall as other officers swarmed in. Through the chaos, Agent Miles calmly walked up to the struggling traitor. Officer Greg Shaw, she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. You're under arrest for treason. As they dragged him away, screaming threats, she turned to the stunned and silent Miller. He was just the leak, not the source. Let's go. She led him not to an interrogation room, but back to the main bullpen. On a large monitor, she pulled up a city schematic centered on the federal courthouse. Your partner Shaw was a pawn used by a city planner named Victor Lang, she stated, not as a theory, but as a fact. Lang has been using a compromised contractor, Omnior Systems, to create security holes across the city. The traffic stop tonight. It was bait, a distraction designed by Lang to have me detained by a local cop he knew was prone to overreacting. She paused, letting the insult land, all to cover the real event. The transfer of a case full of CIA personnel names to a courier codenamed Kestrel. Miller was speechless. How do you know all this? Agent Miles glanced at her watch. Because the transfer is happening right now in a maintenance tunnel under Mill Road, and you're coming with me. You started this. You're going to witness how it ends. The air in the tunnel was thick with the smell of rust and damp concrete. They found them at a junction. The courier Kestrel, a slim man with dead eyes, held a silver case, and beside him, holding a pistol, was the city planner, Victor Lang. Your early agent, Kestrel said with a thin smile. And you're sloppy, Miles shot back. Give me the case. You've already lost, Miles, Lang declared, his voice echoing off the curved walls. You're protecting a system that's already dead. You're leaking the identities of active field agents to foreign powers, Miles said, ignoring him and speaking directly to the courier. He didn't tell you that, did he? That case isn't full of data. It's full of names. You think they'll let the man who carried their death warrants just walk away. She saw the flicker of doubt in Kestrel's eyes. I want the case, she repeated, her voice dropping. Or the unedited video of you meeting your contact in the alley tonight goes public. Your face, your car, everything. Lang tensed. She's bluffing. No, Kestrel said quietly. She's not. In one explosive movement, Kestrel turned and slammed the heavy case into Lang's chest. Lang crumpled, the gun clattering on the concrete. Agent Miles lunged, securing the case and kicking the weapon away as a stunned Miller covered the courier. It was over. 2 hours later, back in the Northwood precinct, the air was thick with a different kind of tension. The bullpen was silent. At the center stood a stone-faced deputy director from the CIA, flanked by 2 Federal Protective Service agents. Agent Lena Miles stood calmly to the side, an observer. Officer Keith Miller stood before them, stripped of his jacket, his face pale and sweaty. Officer Miller, the deputy director began, his voice dangerously quiet. Your actions tonight, motivated by what can only be described as gross incompetence and prejudice, directly endangered a critical national security operation and the lives of 6 active officers. You are a disgrace to your badge. He nodded to one of the FPS agents. The agent stepped forward. Your weapon, officer. Miller numbly unbuckled his holster and handed over his sidearm. Your badge. His hands trembled as he unclipped the badge from his belt and handed it over. He was no longer a cop. He was just a man who had let his hate ruin him. The deputy director pushed a single piece of paper across the desk, a resignation form. Sign it, he commanded, or we will prosecute you as a co-conspirator to treason. Your choice. With a shaking hand, Keith Miller picked up the pen. He didn't look at Agent Miles, but he could feel her eyes on him. He could feel the weight of his failure, the finality of his ruin. He signed his name. The scratching of the pen was the only sound in the room. Justice, he now understood, didn't always come from the barrel of a gun. Sometimes it came from a quiet, unshakable woman in a business suit who simply let you drown in the consequences of your own poison.